Hi everyone, my name's Anea, and I'm back. I am pregnant once again, and this is probably going to be a long video. I'm going to update you on what's been going on for the last year and a half, as well as catch you up on the first bit of my pregnancy and then catch you up on this last week. So let me get my notes here. So, what I have been up to. So, after my miscarriage of the twins at the beginning of last year, I got a bunch of blood work done, and what came back was everything mostly being fine. My prolactin levels were a little high. And as well, I tested just barely positive for an antibody, a anti-cardiolipin antibody. But sometimes that can test a little bit high due to like infection or sickness. And so my nurse practitioner decided to get me a referral to a specialist in like all of that, and also for a gynecologist. And those wait times were long. And it's not that we weren't allowed to continue to try during this wait, but the likelihood of having another miscarriage without any intervention was decently high, and we kind of wanted to save ourselves from further heartbreak. So we waited and waited and waited, and we waited a whole year. And then I finally got an appointment December 3rd of 2024, I believe it was, for the rheumatologist, which is the specialist. And essentially, he looked at my test results from the beginning of the year and said, I want to do all of that plus more blood work again. And that was kind of the end of the appointment. So I got more blood work done, had 10 plus vials done of blood work. And if you know me, you know I have a phobia of needles, so that was pretty extreme. And then at the end of January, I believe it was, he went over that blood work with me. And the same anti-cardiolipin antibodies were just barely positive. I had done a little bit of blood work in between these two big blood works, and my prolactin levels had gone back down. However, in this big blood work thing, my prolactin levels were high again, which was kind of weird. So those were like the two things that showed up. For the anti-cardiolipin antibodies, the reason why that's an issue is because those antibodies can cause blood clots, and recurrent miscarriages. And the treatment for that is to just take a daily low dose aspirin. So I started doing that. And then with the high prolactin levels, he said that he would refer me to an endocrinologist, I think, a hormone doctor. And I haven't heard from them, and apparently it'll be a long time before I hear from them too. And it is now April 11th, I think, and I still have not heard from the gynecologist that I was referred to at the beginning of last year. So that tells you a little bit about our wait times. My nurse practitioner at my most recent prenatal did say that now that I am pregnant, I am more likely to get bumped up on the priority list for a gynecologist. So hopefully I'll see them soon. But yeah, so then once we were given the treatment of a daily low dose aspirin, we started trying again. And it only took 2 cycles. I'm always pretty good at getting pregnant. I'm just not so great at staying pregnant, apparently. But I found out at 10 DPO, I believe it was the end of February, maybe the very beginning of March. I was only 3 weeks pregnant when I found out. I seem to always get a pretty resounding positive 10 DPO. It's been like that for all 3 of these pregnancies. So that was very exciting. And that's kind of where I've been. Yeah. So I'll kind of get you up to speed on the first 7 weeks because I'm currently 8 weeks pregnant. 8 weeks and 5 days, I believe. So the first symptoms that I noticed, acne. I have a little bit of concealer on right now, so hopefully it's not as noticeable, but I've been getting a lot of acne around my chin and specifically this cheek. This one will get a little bit now and again, but this cheek has been struggling. Another thing that was like really big that I noticed before I even got my positive was sore boobs. My boobs have been aching. I'm wearing sports bras the majority of the time. I will say this last week they haven't been as bad, but they, for like the first 3-4 weeks of my pregnancy, it was brutal. I've also had pretty consistent cramping, which should just be my uterus growing. I've had no spotting or anything like that. So cramping is still pretty normal in pregnancy, especially early pregnancy. Again, this last week or so, the cramping definitely has settled down a lot more, but it was decently painful, like nothing crazy, but like mild to moderate period cramps for the first few weeks for sure, and it was pretty constant. I've noticed that I've had a sore back here and there, especially this week. I've been really sore. And the last like symptom that has been very reoccurring is tired. I'm always tired when I'm pregnant. And I pretty much immediately started taking a daily nap again. And then nausea. So the symptoms that I already said kind of started right from the get-go, even before I had a positive. But the nausea started about halfway through week 5 and hasn't stopped. No vomiting, but there have been a couple moments where I've almost gagged. Overall, I know it could be way worse, but it is a bit debilitating. It makes me just kind of want to lay down all the time and not really want to do a whole lot. It makes my relationship with food kind of weird because I don't want to eat because I feel bad, but usually eating makes me feel better. So it's like this weird little paradox of I don't want to eat, but I need to eat kind of deal. Yeah, things that have been helping is drinking water constantly, and making sure I'm having frequent meals. Yeah, that's kind of really it. And even those things aren't like fixing it. It just makes it more manageable. I did get a prescription for, I don't remember what it is, but it's like I think it's just like a B6 or B12 vitamin kind of thing. It starts with a D. Anyway, I did get re-prescribed that, but I haven't noticed my pharmacy having it ready yet, so I might have to contact them and see what the deal is with that. Because I remember it helping a lot in my last pregnancy. And so those are the symptoms that I've kind of been having up until this most recent week. And we'll do a little like overview of the development of the baby. So, over the first 7 weeks, their heart and circulatory system started to take shape. They started developing their nervous system. Their facial features started developing, and like their eyes and their ears and all that good stuff. Their arms and legs started growing, as well as hands and maybe feet. I don't remember, but definitely hands. Their digestive system and lungs have started growing, as well as their other internal organs. And the umbilical cord has started developing. So that's kind of the catch up on the last 7 weeks. And now we will get into how this week has been going. In general, I will probably wait to talk about how the week has been going until like the next week, so I'll always kind of be a week behind, just so that any events that have happened will be up to date. But I figured since I'm just doing an update video, I might as well just share the week now, since it's almost over anyway. So first thing is I had my first prenatal on April 8th, and like I said, today is April 11th. They did all the normal stuff. They did urine sample, they checked my height, they checked my weight, my blood pressure, my temperature. They took my family and my personal medical history, talked about things that I am at risk for, and then had blood work done. So they said that because of my weight and because of my family history of diabetes, that I am at a higher risk for gestational diabetes. That doesn't mean I will have it, and I kind of hope to God I won't. I kind of would rather have any other complication than that, just because of my phobia of needles, and I'll have to start like pricking my finger and tracking my blood and all of that, and that would be my nightmare. But I am at a higher risk for that. So cross your fingers for me. Beyond that, I haven't heard from the nurse practitioner about my blood work results, but I'm able to look them up online. So what I was able to glean from my results was that I had high prolactin still, and an increase in my white blood cells and another type of blood cell. What I was able to find out about that on Google is that it's pretty common for in pregnancy for your white blood cell count to be a little bit higher. And another reason it could be higher is due to like infection or sickness. And I'm pretty sure I've been dealing with a sinus infection for like the last month and a half, 2 months. So I definitely wouldn't be surprised if that's the cause for that. As for the prolactin, I don't know. Like I said, I'm still waiting to hear from an endocrinologist. The only other thing that came up during that prenatal was my urine test. I had some proteins in my urine, which that's something that they're going to want to keep an eye on, but I have been increasing the amount of protein that I eat to try and help with my nausea and just to overall be healthier for my baby. So they said that could also be the cause of that, and that they'll just keep an eye on it and make sure that there's nothing else going on. Proteins in the urine, I believe they said, could be a symptom of preeclampsia, but I don't have any of the other symptoms for that. So that's not something that they're exactly worried about right now. Because I am at a higher risk for gestational diabetes, though, usually gestational diabetes, like glucose check, will be done like mid to late second trimester. But because I'm a higher risk, they might do that test for me a little bit sooner. As for when, I'm not exactly sure. And then yesterday, I had my first ultrasound. Tristan and I were very nervous for the ultrasound because we've never had one and had our baby be alive, unfortunately. So we've never been able to see a heartbeat or anything like that. And they've just always been really sad and really stressful. However, I have good news. Our baby is healthy and measuring where they're supposed to be. And we are just so excited. I'll do a little close-up maybe so you can see. So this is my uterus. This blob is the baby. And then this little circle is the yolk sac, which will over time disappear and will be the placenta instead. But yes, so we're very excited. We got to see the heartbeat. We didn't get to hear it, but I think we will be at my next prenatal because they do the Doppler at 12 weeks. And it's like a monthly appointment that I have. So that should be around 12 weeks. So hopefully we'll get to hear the heartbeat then. The baby's heart rate is 176 beats per minute, which is healthy for a fetus. And yeah, there's an old wives' tale that says that a baby with a higher heart rate, like 176, is gonna be a girl. But then there's also like this old Chinese pregnancy calendar, and my results from that said a boy. So I know that these are just old wives' tales, but they're just kind of fun. So the answer is still up in the air. But like with our other pregnancies, we do not plan on finding out the sex of our baby until our baby's born. So you all will be left in suspense just like us. And then when it comes to the baby's development for this week, the baby is the size of a raspberry, which is very exciting. Their arms and legs have been growing longer. Their tadpole appearance is starting to fade away, so their little tail that they have is slowly going away and will eventually become their spinal cord. Their reproductive organs are starting to take shape. And for me, over the last few weeks, my uterus has gone from the size of like a fist to the size of a grapefruit. So that's exciting as well. As for my symptoms, a lot of them are the same that it had been at like the first 7 weeks. So still getting a lot of acne, still tired, still nauseous, still got sore boobs, still cramping, still having back pain, although recently it has flared up more again. Some newer things is I've had a lack of appetite. So I'll be hungry, but nothing sounds good to eat. That happened last night. I managed to convince myself that like Chinese noodles would be okay. So I was already in town telling my friends about the pregnancy, and stopped at like the mall, the food court at Manchu Walk, and got some noodles. So there was that. Um, I've also been having some hip pain, like right here. Um, it's been weird because like when I Google that, um, I get a lot of things about round ligament pain. And when I look at like medical web pages, they all say like that you don't really get that until like second, third trimester. But then when I look at anecdotal things from like Reddit and the pregnancy forums that I'm a part of, they all say that's what that is. So I don't know if it's just hip pain or if it's round ligament pain, but there's that. And then these last two symptoms are ones that I've had for a little bit, but I didn't include them earlier because they weren't symptoms that I had right at the get-go. But I've definitely had them for a few weeks. The first one is dry skin. I've been like especially dry and itchy, like right between my boobs. And I'm like constantly just like moisturizing my cleavage, which has been interesting. I've also been getting like some random dry spots like around my chest or like on my chest. So that's been fun. And then the last thing I've noticed is a general tightness in my abdomen, like not to like the touch, but like if I'm twisting backwards, I can feel like a tightness. Or I do yoga with my friends every Sunday and we're doing certain yoga poses and again there's like this tightness going up my stomach. My hypothesis with that is I've done the first trimester twice now, even though I've had miscarriages and my baby stopped developing at 6 weeks before my body still thought it was pregnant and my body was still growing and doing its thing. So I think my uterus is kind of accustomed to the first trimester growing. And it's possible that now that this is my third time in the first trimester, my uterus is expanding and growing a little bit faster than it normally does. I think it'll slow right back down like it's its first time once we get like to the end of the first trimester into the second trimester. But this is definitely not my uterus's first rodeo for the first handful of weeks. So I feel like maybe I'm just feeling that tightness early because my uterus is already used to this part of the pregnancy. But that's just a hypothesis. I could be totally wacko about that and have that not be the case at all. But yeah, I think that is the update. This is almost a 30-minute video. I guess I can try and show you a little bump update. There is no bump. As I've said in previous videos and previous pregnancies, I'm just kind of thicker and my body carries my weight in a way that kind of just always makes me look a little pregnant. So there's that. It's not the most flattering. But this is my bump right now. Again, it's not a proper bump. It's mostly just my body and maybe a little bit of bloat. But hopefully I will start showing in the foreseeable future, even if it's just a little bit. Yeah, that is it. Thank you for checking out my video. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave it in the comments, or if you know me personally, feel free to send me a message on Facebook or Instagram. Yeah, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye!